Good morning. I'd like to introduce Dr. Rachel Bryant. She has been kind enough to do an interview with us in hopes to increase awareness of the many challenges faced by families that have a disabled child. Good morning, Dr. Bryant.
Good morning.
Are you familiar with the term ableism?
I'm more familiar with the concept and its effects on families than the term. I've heard it, ableism, but it isn't something that I've seen enter the profession in a way that it's recognized as a real entity of study and as a real reality that families face.
Okay. Could you tell us, what is your profession or your title?
I'm a psychologist. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I wear several hats. I have a private practice where I work with families and I work with adults. I specialize in child psychology, and I also work at the Economic Opportunity Program here in Elmira. And here I'm the Director of Community Wellness, so I have lots of different jobs supporting the different programs within our agency here in order to allow our agency to better serve the community.
Okay. Do you feel that families utilize the services that are available in Chemung County?
I think that there is a tremendous range of information that families have. Some families are more able to get access through either personal resources, people they come in contact with, sometimes workers that they come in contact with that are more aggressive advocates for them. But there are many families that are unaware of the services. There's a lot of suffering in silence. There's a lot of difficulty negotiating the system. So it's quite a range from families that are really able to benefit in a meaningful way from services provided here, all the way to families that are quite hidden from professional agencies that might be able to offer help, and also unaware of the help that is available.
Okay. When do you feel services should begin if a child has been diagnosed with a disability?
Oh, right away. Right away. It's such a journey on every level for parents. When parents imagine having a child, their fantasies typically do not include caring for a particular need that could require additional support and services. And so there is just a host of reactions and emotions that go into understanding, into envisioning what that child's life might be, what things may not be open or available for the child. And all of that is going on in the privacy of the family long before you get to the point of, oh my gosh, now how do I make this more public in terms of trying to get services, negotiating with schools, how will it be received, the very different reactions that you get for a variety of reasons. So it really is a journey of trying to get the best situation for that child so they can reach their potential. And the earlier that you can start on this process, and the earlier that you can get effective professionals that can support and lead you in the right direction, absolutely, in some cases, amelioration is greatly determined by how quickly you get services, but also to help the parents feel that there's a tremendous amount of hope and support, and can begin to change their vision of that child and move forward. So definitely the earlier the better.
Great. What are some of the disabilities you see in your profession?
A wide range. Children with different autistic spectrum disorders, children with cerebral palsy, children with different medical diabetes, for example, different medical diagnoses, just a range. Often what happens is at some point, if a family is struggling with either services are inadequate or need to be supplemented, or I do a lot of work with helping both the children and the families through different stages of not necessarily accepting, but negotiating the world that's not always very supportive of the particular disability that the child is struggling with. So it's at different points, at different ages, but I would say probably the most common are autistic spectrum disabilities and learning disabilities within the school.
Okay. What advice would you give to parents that have a child with a disability?
The biggest thing is enjoy your child. You know, your child is your child first, and I think that parents know that. That's not typically advice that parents need, but it starts with just that relationship between parent and child, and then from there, recognizing what are the specific challenges to that family. And then it's everything from school support to professional support to support groups that a lot of times when parents are dealing with issues that maybe their peers aren't dealing with because maybe their friends don't have a child with a similar disability, there's a lot of kind of going it alone, and it can be very helpful to meet with other parents that are facing similar challenges, or just even in negotiating school systems or agencies, or the whole financial piece that's associated with it as well. So I think that it's not, there isn't one size fits all. Every child, whether it's a child with a disability or a child without a disability, they are all as unique as children are. So it's really trying to create the plan that is right for that specific family. And it's never, typically there's more than one source of support that is needed. And the other thing is that there's a lot of trial and error, you know, in terms of whether it's trying different interventions or trying different agencies, or, you know, different social workers that can provide support, until you begin to feel that the child is being respected and understood in a way that they're receiving help that's effective and meaningful. I think a lot of times parents get very discouraged. They feel the discrimination from multiple areas, even areas where they should not be, where they should be receiving support, and they're getting resistance, and it beats down parents. And so it's, the advice then would be, it's going to be a long journey, and there absolutely are going to be successes along the way, and the more active they are, the more likely they're going to be to get to those successes.
Okay, great. In today's world, do you feel that families that have a disabled child are discriminated against?
Unfortunately, yes. Not in every case, and there's a range. But the families that I've worked with for over 20 years, it's heartbreaking stories. We are, you know, as human beings, we respond to what we see visually, we respond to what we hear, and when we see things that are not in our normal experience, we have reactions to that, and those reactions then become part of our judgments, and the families feel that. And parents will talk about that, just, you know, going to the store to buy milk then becomes potentially a very difficult experience, and often a painful experience, if something that is part of the child's disability becomes obvious in a way that it draws a negative attention. And so it's a range. It's not that there's a range, I think, for all of us. Our willingness to think about prejudgments that we make across, you know, many dimensions, our willingness to think about what is our part in educating ourselves, our willingness to think about how do our actions and statements and expressions affect other people. We're not all there. So when you have a child who has a disability that is part of having them act in a way that makes them stand out, in a way that, you know, the community or the school has not come in contact with before, there's a lot of negative reaction that is projected onto the child or onto the family, and the families feel this. And so yes, we're not there yet. There still is a lot of discrimination.
Is there any advice that you would give to families that don't have a disabled child?
Absolutely. And here's where I've seen, when I've worked with kids that have had, especially when it's a disability, that there's something very visible that also is likely to result in children's negative reactions. The kind of sensitivity training you can do in classrooms are incredibly helpful. And I think that when we do this with classrooms, the feedback that I get from parents and from teachers is it is incredibly helpful, not just to the child who has a disability, but to the community at large, just in terms of being aware that there is such a range of human experience. There's such a range of ability in different areas, and there's such a range of heartache that people struggle with. And instead of bringing judgments to that, to have the desire to bring a sensitivity to that, and an interest to that, and a concern to that, I think it elevates us all as human beings. So that's helping every one of us, not just removing some pain that that child with a disability may face. And it's effective, it works. It's a wonderful thing. I've been in classrooms where that kind of sensitivity training has been done, and they're very powerful experiences, and they probably in some cases have more impact on the child who doesn't have a disability.
Great information. The last question I want to ask you is, what advice, I have to add it. If you had a magic wand, what would you do to help combat ableism?
I think first of all, it's there's real value in the term being more public, in terms of this isn't just about making accessible parking space. There are so many things as human beings that we do and think and feel that is somewhat automatic, and there are judgments that we make about people who have characteristics that we judge to be less favorable, and that then has consequences for our actions and our attitudes and relationships that will form, and what we say behind closed doors. So I think if I had a wand, it would try to sprinkle an increased self-awareness for everyone. Nobody gets through this life without real heartache and real challenges. And instead of using our capacity to uplift each other, we use our fears to bring each other down. And so I think with addressing this first through, actual laws that begin to open doors, but then with a more kind of sensitivity training, as I've seen be effective, and to start it in schools, as there certainly are many programs that are available now that have recognized the importance of doing it, because by the time we're grown-ups, we tend not to be as open and as pliable in terms of our perceptions and our understandings of things. So certainly all of us, continually need to be made more self-aware, and then specific training that applies to sensitivity to families who do have the heartache of these additional struggles.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Bryant.
My pleasure. Thank you.